Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls deep. Jujutsu Kaisen has revealed something huge. Something that changes our whole understanding of Sukuna's character and how he became the king of curses 1000 years ago.
What did he say?
Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 181 explains Sukuna's gradual change from an overpowered curse user to an evolved state, being neither human nor a cursed spirit. He's something entirely different.
No way!
Those of you that have the notification bell on for our channel, you would understand Jujutsu Kaisen's story so far, as we explain Yuta Okkotsu's mission and how Rika has returned. You watched the movie, right?
Of course!
Then go watch this video to understand why Yuta is utterly broken with Rika.
No.
To sum it up, Yuta wants points in Kenjaku's culling game so that he can save Satoru freaking Gojo. He's managed to defeat both of the ancient curse users, Takako and Ryu, with his revealed curse technique called Mimicry. Yuta can copy anyone's curse technique, including those that are restricted by bloodlines. Remember, he used curse speech that Toga Inomaki utilizes. Now, whilst Yuta was away from the story after the events of Jujutsu Kaisen 0, he refined his technique even further. He can now utilize these powers better than their original users if he trains it. We witness the sheer difference of his curse speech against Takako. Yuta faces no drawbacks using curse speech, even with commands like die, which is a feat Inomaki Toge struggles with his own power. The new Rika he created has multiple curse objects and techniques stored for his disposal. And in chapter 180, we gained even more information that Yuta doesn't have to kill you for him to gain your technique. Yuta had copied space distortion from Takako to achieve victory against Ryu, as he did not know the parameters of Yuta's curse technique and did not realize he projected a huge beam from the sky to rain down on him. Hell, he even copied Ryu's technique despite him having the most curse energy output in the colony. However, despite gaining victory over his opponents, Yuta follows the principles of Satoru Gojo. Yuta does not want to kill them. Instead, he shows mercy.
I'm confused right now, G.
Alright, I get it. Get to the point. What do you mean about Sukuna? You're confused. Let me explain. Ryu, defeated, lays down the bitter truth and tells Yuta that he will reach his limits, meaning that the limitless Yuta we all witness is all a facade, because the world that they live in will always break down the morality, spirit, and strength a sorcerer has. The world is a mean and nasty place that will beat you down and keep you there permanently if you let it. It doesn't care how tough you are, but it ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Yeah, I just quoted Rocky Balboa for this video, but trust me, it makes sense. Essentially, until you start believing in yourself, you can't have a life you desire, which links back to the message of Satoru Gojo and Sukuna. In my last video regarding the philosophy of death, I got all of us on the same page as a community. I explained why Yuji Itadori was planned to be Sukuna's vessel, and this was planned since ancient times due to Kenjaku being his parent. Itadori's character explores the amalgamation of pain and what it means to be a sorcerer through the lens of innocence. This is why chapter 181 connects all the plot threads together and gives us another clue. Ryu explains that he has seen it all before. Remember everyone, Ryu is an ancient sorcerer from the past. This is because Ryu goes on to explain how Yuta, like the sorcerers and cursed spirits he has seen, he will never be able to transcend beyond merely being strong. Rather, the only ones who can surpass that limit are those with an overwhelming sense of self and a complete disregard for others. For example, Gojo, before he became enlightened, when he was angry about the death of an innocent girl whom was the star plasma vessel, he became emotional and wanted to massacre everyone that was laughing at her death. Gojo was showing his selflessness and attachment to the world. But it was only after being close to death, thanks to Toji Fushiguro, he gained enlightenment and called himself the Honored One. Though Gojo gets his revenge later on in the story, he moved past the base level of emotion that transcended normal people. Sorcerers such as this are akin to natural disasters. This terminology is perfect by Ryu, as just like natural disasters, those who transcend to the limits of the ordinary power, they become a world level calamity. And like something that's natural, they have no feelings or emotional influence to their carnage. Be it a country, government, a pregnant woman, an innocent child, natural disasters don't take pity, nor do they discriminate. In a way, this notion, though slightly different, is accepted even by the likes of Satoru Gojo, Megami, Nanami, and even Itadori. They understand the life of a sorcerer, that it isn't a happy one. They are not supposed to be the heroes of a story, and their job will require great sacrifices at times. Nanami gave Itadori a life lesson in this, after he believed he killed innocent victims of Mahito's curse. Everything I've explained comes back to Ryu's statement, where his dialogue holds extreme importance to the plot of Jujutsu Kaisen. As this was being said, we get an illustration of Sukuna before being fully transcended into the King of Curses. You see, Sukuna started off as a normal sorcerer, a curse user with an extreme level of potential and power. During his life, he was able to defeat all the sorcerers who challenged him, and mind you, they were from a golden era. The level of these sorcerers were not comparable to what we see now, hence Kanjaku's culling games and motive to push an evolution for the Jujutsu world so it can once again regain its notoriety as it did during the Heian period. However, Sukuna within all of this was still an exception, and I would go as far to say he is comparable to a Kami or Master Tengen in regards to his immortality. It is said that Sukuna during his life evolved to have 4 arms and 2 faces. This is similar to what occurred with Master Tengen, the oldest sorcerer we know from 1200 years ago. In chapter 145, Master Tengen mentioned that he went through an evolution, changing his appearance from an ordinary human to that of a big toe. I mean a Kami. And since he didn't assimilate with a star plasma vessel, the whole world could potentially explode and go into chaos, as he evolved even further with drawbacks. Tengen evolved past what it means to be a human and now has 4 eyes. However, this process for Tengen took a long time, along with the fact he wasn't able to merge with his vessel, which would have contained his evolution and kept his humanity. When we take a look at the legend of Sukuna, he somehow skipped the 1000-year evolution and went straight into becoming a full-fledged demon king. He grew out an extra pair of arms and stuff, transcending into the Hindu god Kali or something, and I'll make another video discussing this inspiration if this video gets 15,000 likes.
Now, as Adil mentioned, this transformation is important because Sukuna became the greatest sorcerer to ever live. After Satoru freaking Gojo, of course. Sukuna's growth in becoming Heian's strongest sorcerer alive, much like Gojo, goes back to his mindset believing he truly is chosen and honored throughout the heavens. But Sukuna's understanding of life and death, along with his comprehension of Jujutsu sorcery, allowed him to transcend into a completely new form of life altogether. After his death, Sukuna was able to defeat death itself by becoming a cursed spirit. Sukuna's curse was so strong that his body was unable to be fully destroyed, leaving his remains of the 20 indestructible fingers, which was preserved in grave wax, where through the ages they lived as cursed objects, growing ever stronger in power. These fingers even retain parts of his soul, which keep him alive over a millennia. Sukuna's small bouts with Jogo revealed that Sukuna was able to live on after his mortal years. He is not simply a cursed spirit. In fact, Sukuna constantly referred to Gojo as a cursed spirit, as though he himself is something entirely different. Obviously, he still sees himself as the consciousness of the Sukuna from his sorcerer era, but Sukuna has even looked down on other cursed users and humans as lesser beings too. In chapter 116, Sukuna Yuta explains how both humans and curses respectively flock to each other and then compare themselves to those around them. This leads to weakness and stunt of growth, a similar philosophy that Gojo believes in a much more positive manner. Now, this is because, whilst thinking about the other person, the mind limits its own potential. Sukuna gives Jogo advice that he should have just burnt everything to a cinder without thinking. Only then, with this mindset, Jogo could have reached the heights of Satoru freaking Gojo. But Sukuna says Jogo lacked the hunger to take hold of his own desires. This again circles back to Ryu's statement of selfishness, which without it brings about limitations. Sukuna was able to perform the same technique and level of fire output as the special grade Curse Spirit Jogo. This knowledge of sorcery is not normal, and likely was due to Sukuna transitioning into a living god whilst he was alive. He understands the soul and body even better than Mahito in Kenjaku. He even denied Kenjaku's help in obtaining complete resurrection due to his own motive and knowledge. All of this is stemmed back to a man who exhibited deep ego and self-belief. This is both portrayed by Sukuna and Gojo. Have you guys noticed that Sukuna and Gojo both said the same thing, quoting Buddha? Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one. It is said that after Buddha Sakayuni was born, he took 7 steps from his mother and said that whilst pointing to both heaven and earth. Buddha achieved full enlightenment and understanding of both the living and dead, which, much like Sukuna and even Gojo with his infinity, is a way of showing their limitless vastness of knowledge. However, Gojo and Sukuna, though both very similar, are different. Sukuna's selfishness only extended to himself, whereas Gojo believed that it was important to be selfish to become stronger for others. He even told Megami during his training that he has to be more selfish in order to surpass his limits. But both of these ideas of selfishness require absolute self-belief, and without it you will always be weak. Megami, after hearing Gojo's advice, didn't understand what he was trying to tell him, as after he learned that the past 10 shadow technique user defeated a limitless infinity user, Megami came to the conclusion that it must have been due to a sacrificial play. This was a weak mindset and lack of self-belief. A person who believes that they are the honored one would never think like that. Rather, their conclusion would be that they are the strongest and can defeat anyone and everyone. But as we come back to the chapter, Ryu continues his point by telling Yuta that he is too sweet, which in this context has a double meaning. Following Ryu's previous analogy, sweet in the sense of fulfilling his hunger and becoming the dessert he craved for, along with sweet as in too nice and naive. Ryu says that this isn't a praise, because Yuta sparing sorcerers who are fighting to the death can be very detrimental and also be the downfall for Yuta in the long run. In Ryu's perspective, to be truly strong and have no limits, one must disregard these sentimental emotions of others' life and death. However, Yuta dismisses Ryu's concerns, saying that Takako said the same thing. On hearing that, Ryu is surprised to hear that she is still alive. These guys, after a whole last life and death battle, have just started becoming lifelong friends, and can just openly talk about their love life. How sweet. Anyway, Yuta explains to him how anything he says to Takako will end in violence. This is due to their difference in life. Yuta being born from the Michizane Sugawara family line and a cousin of Gojo, he is blessed to have overwhelming cursed energy and an amazing technique. Not everyone has this favour. Like Takako, who in her own era was looked down upon. Gojo told Megami in the past that a sorcerer's power and innate technique is related to genetics, meaning that not all humans are born equal. After Ryu and his newly acquainted best friend have their heart-to-heart, Yuta tells him to give him all of his points. My guy just straight up robs him. But this makes Ryu question if Yuta only left him alive for this reason. Remember guys, with the new rule that Yuji got Higuruma to add to the culling games, it allows other players to transfer any amount of points to other players. If Yuta had just killed Ryu, he would have only gotten 10 points. But if Ryu has more points than that, that, it would be more lucrative to just get him to transfer his points instead, which Yuta ends up getting from Ryu and Takako, giving him a total of 200 points. Yuta subtly answers Ryu's question by saying that he should thank his friends, meaning if it wasn't for this rule, Yuta would have likely killed him. Now, even though this isn't certain, because, I mean, you know, Yuta is our boy wonder, a hero who saves whoever he can. Also, Yuta could be referring to his friend Maki, Panda and Toge, who changed his life forever, giving him hope. However, with that said, Yuta did kill Druv, and he killed countless others to get where he is, so, you know, potato potato. Even though, according to Ryu's understanding, Yuta will still be limited and won't be able to reach the likes of Sukuna, Yuta is clearly a sorcerer who isn't naive like Ryu misunderstood him to be. Rather, Yuta is just confident enough to spare the lives of those he deems no longer a threat. Now, if you reached it this far, it probably means you enjoyed the video, and YouTube also thinks that you're gonna like this one. So what I'm gonna need you to do is go over there and let us and YouTube know if they're right. Are they? I don't know. Find out.